Hey everybody, I wanted to address today the topic of how to do probate faster and easier in Texas if you only have a bank account and a home to deal with. But before I do that, I wanted to remind you guys how to reach out to me. You can find me on my email and my website, derek@legionlawpllc.com or www.legionlawpllc.com. So that being said, let's dive right into the topic. I get calls from people all the time looking for probate, and it's good and bad to be dealing with that because at the end of the day in Texas, there are multiple versions of probate. It's good because you can find the most appropriate form of probate and you can go faster and quicker through probate if you pick the right one, but it's bad in the fact that there are a lot of options, and if you screw up at all, you're back to square one, and that's not good. So it's a double-edged sword in Texas when it comes to probate, but at the end of the day, I run into more often than not people who have a house and a bank account and really no creditors at all, which is great because at that point they can qualify for a muniment of title is what it's called. So as I mentioned, there's 8 or so paths in probate in Texas, but if you pass away with a will, then you can qualify for 4 of those, and 2 of them are usually the most appropriate options. So the first one is the most common one, which is application for probate of a will and letters testamentary. And that is the most common form. It's recognized across the entire nation, all as well, but it's also kind of a slower and more expensive form of probate. However, if you qualify under certain circumstances, then you can actually get muniment of title. That's the second path, and it's faster and it's cheaper because all you're doing is essentially stating, hey, I own a house, I have a bank account, and there are no creditors, or there are very few creditors. And if that's the case, then you can go through the faster route and the cheaper route in Texas. Now, there are pros and cons to this faster and cheaper route, and the fact that the pros are it's faster and cheaper, but the cons are that it is not recognized everywhere. So if you try to work with a insurance company from New York after you go through muniment of title and you say, hey, my father's estate, let's say your father passed away, my father's estate has a house and a bank account, and that's it, so we went through muniment of title, they may not recognize it because it's a Texas-specific type of probate. That means that if they say that, they might say, well, we don't recognize it, so go through the normal probate and start over from scratch, which would be a real pain in the butt, to be quite frank. That being said, some people will respect it, and especially Texas companies will respect it, and if you have just a house and a bank account, you could probably pull it off and do muniment of title, quickly transfer everything over into the estate's name, and then transfer it out according to the terms of the will. And you're through probate much faster than if you were going through the first route of probate, which is application to probate a will with letters testamentary. Apologies. So on that front, it's pros and cons. Again, faster and cheaper, but it is not recognized everywhere, and you must make sure that you only have 1 or 2 creditors on the estate. If there's unsecured debt like credit cards, if there are student loans, if there are bank or car loans and all that stuff, then you may have to go through the normal probate process. However, if you have maybe a mortgage and that's it, or maybe 1 unpaid credit card bill, you could probably pull it off. But at the end of the day, the number of creditors and the existence of just a house and the bank account would make it so that you qualify for muniment of title more likely than not. However, again, if you have stocks and bonds and 401k and life insurance and all that stuff, then normal probate is probably the most appropriate option. So again, Texas is great in the fact that it caters to people, but it's terrible in the fact that it caters to people because, again, like I've been hemming and hawing a little bit here, there are complications if you choose one path, and there are some great benefits from choosing the path as well. So that being said, my strong recommendation is to talk to an attorney like myself to figure out if muniment of title is great for you or not. And if it is, then go for it because it's cheaper and it's faster and it's way better. So that being said, again, if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to me, Derek, D-E-R-E-K, at legionlawpllc.com, or find me at my website, www.legionlawpllc.com. Thanks and have a great day.